Captain Jake Harris sat in the cockpit of his spacecraft, staring out at the vast expanse of stars before him. The hum of the engine was the only sound that filled the silence as he felt the weight of the mission ahead. This was no ordinary mission. It was the most dangerous one yet. His destination was a planet that had never been explored by humanity, a world that had remained hidden for centuries, tucked away in the far reaches of the galaxy. Its name was unknown, its origins a mystery. Only the faintest traces of signals had been detected, and Jake was tasked with uncovering the truth. But as the countdown to launch began, a chill ran down his spine. Something about this mission felt different. "Ready for takeoff, Captain Harris?" The voice of his AI assistant, Orion, broke his thoughts. Jake gave a firm nod, tightening his grip on the controls. "Let's do this, Orion. Initiate launch sequence." The countdown began, and Jake's spacecraft slowly lifted off from Earth's atmosphere, breaking free from the familiar pull of gravity. The stars outside his window blurred into streaks of light as the ship accelerated into the unknown. It wasn't long before the blue planet below became a distant memory, swallowed by the infinite blackness of space. But as the ship moved farther from Earth, a strange sensation settled over Jake. He felt as though something was watching him. It was an odd feeling, one that he couldn't shake. Orion's calm voice echoed through the cockpit once more. "Approaching destination, Captain. Estimated time of arrival, 15 minutes. Jake couldn't help but feel a flicker of excitement. This was the moment he had trained for. His eyes narrowed as he focused on the planet ahead. Through the viewport he could see it. A barren, rocky world, covered in vast deserts with jagged mountains reaching up into the sky. There was something hauntingly beautiful about it, but at the same time, it felt wrong. The planet looked lifeless, yet Jake couldn't shake the feeling that something was lurking, waiting. As the ship descended into the atmosphere, turbulence shook the craft, and Jake's heart rate quickened. The air grew dense, and the instruments began to beep erratically. He frowned and checked the controls, but everything seemed fine. It was just the planet's atmosphere playing tricks on him. Or at least, that's what he told himself. "Orion, adjust course. We need a clear landing site." "Adjusting course, Captain," the AI responded. "Clearing landing zone." The spacecraft continued its descent, the once calm skies now filled with swirling clouds and dust storms that obscured his vision. The ground below was uneven, rocky, and treacherous. Jake's hands gripped the controls even tighter. There was no turning back now. Suddenly, a deep rumble shook the ship. Jake's eyes darted to the instruments, watching as the readings spiked. The ship jolted violently, throwing him against his seat restraints. "Orion, what the hell is happening?" Jake's voice was strained as he struggled to maintain control of the ship. "There is an unknown disturbance in the atmosphere, Captain," Orion responded, its usually calm tone now tinged with unease. "We're being pulled off course." "Pull us back on track," Jake barked, his voice sharp as he wrestled with the controls. But the pull was too strong. The ship began to spiral, uncontrollably, as the disturbance intensified. His heart pounded in his chest, and for the first time Jake truly feared for his life. He tried to right the ship, but it was no use. The powerful force seemed to have a mind of its own. The rocky terrain below grew closer and closer as the ship continued to fall. The roar of the wind outside grew deafening. He gritted his teeth and slammed his hands onto the emergency controls. "Brace for impact," Jake shouted to himself, just as the ship collided with the rocky surface. The world outside went black as the ship's systems powered down, leaving Jake in a stunned silence. His body ached from the crash, but he forced himself to focus. He couldn't afford to panic, not now. Slowly, he unbuckled himself and pushed open the cockpit's hatch. The air was thick with dust and the ship was tilted at an odd angle, its nose embedded into the ground. He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself, and grabbed his helmet from the side compartment. He knew he had to find a way out. He couldn't stay here for long. He had to figure out what was happening on this strange planet and complete the mission. As Jake stepped out of the ship and onto the rocky surface, his boots made a soft crunching sound as they hit the ground. He stood tall, surveying the barren landscape around him. The planet was as desolate as it looked from space, its vast deserts stretching endlessly in every direction. The wind howled through the jagged mountains, carrying with it a strange, unsettling chill. He took a few cautious steps forward, scanning the area for any signs of life. His pulse quickened as he noticed something ahead, movement faint but there. At first he thought it might be a mirage, the heat of the desert playing tricks on him. But as he moved closer, he saw a figure, a tall, slender figure standing motionless in the distance. Jake's heart skipped a beat. Was this some kind of native species, or was it something more dangerous? He began walking toward the figure, his hand instinctively reaching for the weapon strapped to his side. As he drew closer, the figure slowly turned to face him. A shiver ran down Jake's spine. The being standing before him was no human. She was tall with long, flowing dark hair, her skin a deep shade of purple. Her eyes glowing with an eerie light locked onto his with an intensity that made his heart race. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. The message was clear. Jake had crossed the threshold. He was no longer a mere investigator. He was a prisoner on this alien world. The figure extended her hand toward him, and as their eyes met, Jake realized one horrifying truth. His mission had only just begun, and he had made a grave mistake. Jake's heart raced as the tall, alien woman extended her hand toward him. Her eyes glowing with a soft, almost hypnotic light never left his face. She was tall, much taller than any human, with long, flowing hair that seemed to move of its own accord, as if it were alive. Her skin was a deep shade of purple, her features sharp and regal, as if she had been born to command. Without a word, the woman motioned for him to follow, her gaze never faltering. Jake hesitated, his mind racing. This was no simple encounter. The way she moved, with an air of absolute authority, suggested that she was not just an inhabitant of this alien world. She was its ruler. He had unknowingly wandered into the heart of a foreign kingdom, and now he was at the mercy of its queen. "Who are you?" Jake finally managed to ask, his voice low but firm. "What is this place?" The alien woman didn't respond. Instead, she turned and began walking away, her flowing robes trailing behind her. Reluctantly, Jake followed, his boots crunching on the rocky ground beneath him. The terrain around them seemed to stretch endlessly, and the landscape was both haunting and beautiful, with towering mountains and vast stretches of sand and stone. It was a place that felt ancient, forgotten by time. As they walked, Jake's mind spun. He had come here on a mission to explore, to learn about the planet's secrets, but he had no idea that it would lead to this. The silence between them was palpable, and Jake could feel the weight of her presence. She exuded power, and every step she took seemed to command the planet itself. After what felt like an eternity, they reached a grand structure, a massive, towering fortress carved into the mountainside. The walls were adorned with intricate symbols and patterns that Jake could not begin to understand. It was unlike any architecture he had ever seen, combining both organic and mechanical elements in a way that felt both alien and advanced. The alien woman led him inside the fortress, and Jake's eyes widened as he took in the interior. The walls were lined with glowing crystals, casting an eerie light across the vast open space. The air was thick with the scent of unfamiliar flora, and the atmosphere was heavy with a sense of ancient history. At the center of the room stood a large throne-like seat, and as the alien woman took her place upon it, she looked down at Jake with a gaze that could have frozen him in his tracks. The throne was unlike anything Jake had ever seen, made from a combination of alien metals and stone, with intricate carvings that seemed to pulse with energy. "Sit," she commanded, her voice smooth yet firm, carrying an air of unquestionable authority. Jake didn't have a choice. He sat on the ground before her, his mind racing. He was no longer in control of the situation. This was not just an alien encounter. It was a political power struggle, and he was caught in the middle. "You have entered my world uninvited," the alien queen spoke, her voice echoing in the vast chamber. "And for that, you will pay the price." Jake looked up, trying to read her expression. There was no warmth in her eyes, only a cold, calculating stare. She wasn't threatening him in the way he had expected. This wasn't a simple capture, it was a statement. She was in control, and he was at her mercy. "I didn't come to invade," Jake said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I came to learn, to explore. I meant no harm." The alien queen's lips curled into a slight smirk. "Your mission, your exploration, was never intended to be so simple. You are a part of something much bigger than you realize. The fate of your kind. Your entire species rests in your hands." Jake's eyes widened. "What do you mean? What are you talking about?" She leaned forward slightly, her eyes never leaving his. "This planet is dying, human. Its resources are dwindling. Its people are weakening. We need help, and you withal. You see, we are not as weak as we appear." The queen continued, her voice calm but filled with authority. "Our people have learned to harness the power of the stars, to bend the laws of nature itself. But we are not invincible. Without help, our species will perish." Jake's mind raced as he processed her words. She was asking for his help, but how could he trust her? Could he trust any of this? He was just one man, one human. How could he possibly make a difference to a planet that was so alien, so different from Earth? "What do you want me to do?" Jake finally asked, his voice steady, though his heart pounded in his chest. The queen's gaze softened, ever so slightly. "You will assist us in rebuilding. In exchange, you will be given the knowledge and technology to save your people. We are not enemies, human. But your presence here is a test. Will you help us, or will you watch as your kind loses its only chance at survival?" Jake took a deep breath. This was not the mission he had signed up for. This wasn't what he had prepared for. But the weight of her words hung heavy in the air. The fate of his people, his planet, might depend on what happened here. The queen stood, her presence towering over him. "You are in my custody now, human. You will stay here under my protection until you make your choice." Jake didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stood, his mind spinning. The alien queen had offered him a chance, but at what cost? Was he willing to help a race so different from his own, even if it meant risking everything he knew? The choice was his. But for now, he was trapped in her hold, caught in a battle of survival that neither of them fully understood yet. The fate of two worlds now rested on the decision he was about to make. Jake sat in the dimly lit chamber, his mind spinning. He had been held captive by the alien queen, Alara, for what felt like days. The weight of his situation settled on him like a heavy burden, but he couldn't escape it. Every attempt to flee had been futile, and the walls of the stone-like prison he was kept in seemed to close in on him more each day. His only hope now rested on the strange conversation he had had with the queen. She had told him that her planet was dying, that her people were facing extinction, and that he, a mere human, might be their salvation. The idea of it had sounded like a bad dream, until now. What he had once thought was an invitation to help was beginning to feel more like an obligation he couldn't escape. Sitting on the cold stone floor, Jake's thoughts were interrupted by the sound of the door opening. Alara entered, her imposing figure casting a long shadow across the room. She looked as regal as ever, but there was something different about her today. Her usual cold demeanor seemed to soften, and she approached him with a look of concern in her eyes. "You seem troubled, human," Alara said, her voice soft, but with an edge of authority. Jake stood up, brushing the dust off his clothes. His heart pounded as he faced her, unsure of how to respond. "You told me your people were dying. That's hard to believe. What's really going on here? Why am I really here?" Alara studied him for a moment before she spoke again, her gaze unwavering. "You have a right to know the truth. I have kept certain things from you, but it is time you understood. The fate of my people, of your people, is more intertwined than you can imagine." Jake felt his pulse quicken. He had known from the beginning that something wasn't right. His instinct told him that this wasn't just about saving an alien race. It was about something much larger, something that he had yet to comprehend. Alara walked over to a nearby console, her fingers moving across the glowing alien controls. As the screen flickered to life, a holographic map of the galaxy appeared before them. It was unlike anything Jake had ever seen, vast, interconnected lines of energy crisscrossing the universe. "This is the true reason for your presence here," Alara said, her voice low and serious. "The galaxy is changing, and it's all because of a single force, an energy that even we cannot fully understand. We call it the ether. It is the life force that binds every star, every planet, and every living being in this galaxy together." Jake watched, transfixed, as the hologram expanded, showing intricate patterns of energy. The lines seemed to pulse and shift as if they were alive. He had no idea what this meant, but he could feel the gravity of it. "The ether is dying," Alara continued. "Without it, the universe itself will collapse. But it is not just our planet at risk. Your world, Earth, is in danger as well. The ether's power is what sustains life, and without it, entire civilizations will fall into ruin. My people have known about this for centuries, and we've been trying to find a way to stop it. But there is one thing we discovered that we didn't fully understand until now." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "What do you mean? What is it?" Alara turned to him, her eyes locking onto his with a mixture of sadness and resolve. "It is not just the ether that is dying. There is a much darker force at play. Someone, has been tampering with the ether. The energy that binds the universe together is being drained, and we now know who is responsible. It's the very same force that brought you here." Jake's mind reeled. He couldn't comprehend what she was saying. "You mean me? I'm the one causing this?" Alara nodded gravely. "Not you specifically, but humanity. Your people have unknowingly tapped into the ether in ways that have been slowly draining it. The energy you call technology, the advancements, the machines, the way your civilization has evolved. It has been feeding off the very essence of life itself. Your scientists have unwittingly been harvesting the ether for centuries, and now it is on the brink of collapse." Jake's head spun as he tried to process the revelation. He had always known that humanity had its flaws, that there were consequences to every advancement, but to hear that their very existence was tied to the destruction of the galaxy itself, it was almost too much to bear. "We never meant to destroy anything," Jake said, his voice shaky. "We were just trying to survive, to improve. We never knew." "I know," Alara interjected, her voice softening. "And that is why I brought you here. We need your help, Jake. The solution lies in you, in your understanding of your own world. My people can't fix this alone, but you, your knowledge, your technology, it is the key to restoring the ether. But there is one more thing you need to understand." Jake took a step forward, his curiosity piqued despite the confusion swirling in his mind. "What else? What do you need me to do?" Alara looked at him, her expression intense, almost pleading. "There is an artifact. It is the heart of the ether, hidden deep within the core of this planet. The only way to restore balance to the galaxy is to find it, but there are others who seek it as well, others who would use its power for their own gain. You must find the artifact before they do, or everything will be lost." Jake stared at her, his mind racing. He had thought he was just here to investigate a strange planet, but now it seemed like the fate of the universe rested in his hands. "You're asking me to risk everything," he said, his voice hoarse. "I don't even know if I can trust you. How do I know you're not just using me to save your own people?" Alara's gaze softened, her eyes filled with an emotion Jake hadn't expected: vulnerability. "I would not ask this of you if it were not necessary. I am not using you, Jake. The ether's collapse will destroy everything, not just my people, but yours as well. I am asking you to help save us all." Jake took a deep breath, the weight of the decision settling over him. He had never wanted to be part of something this big, never wanted to shoulder the responsibility of saving an entire galaxy. But the truth was undeniable. He was the only one who could stop the destruction. He was the key. With a grim determination, Jake looked at Alara and nodded. I'll help you, but if we do this, we do it my way. I'll find the artifact, but we need to make sure no one else gets their hands on it. Understand? Alara's lips curled into a faint smile, a look of relief crossing her face. I understand. Together we will save the galaxy. As they prepared to embark on their dangerous quest, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of something far larger than he could ever imagine. The galaxy was in danger, and now it was up to him to set things right. Jake stood at the edge of the vast alien landscape, staring at the fortress before him. The final decision had been made. His hands trembled slightly as he gripped the alien weapon, its cold metal surface a stark contrast to the heat of the moment. He had come here to investigate, to uncover the secrets of an unknown world. Now, he was preparing for the greatest mission of his life, to retrieve the artifact that could restore the ether and save the galaxy from collapse. Beside him stood Alara, the alien queen who had once held him captive but now stood as his ally. Together they had uncovered the truth, the dark force that had drained the life force of their world and countless others. The ether was dying, and the key to its restoration lay deep within the planet's core. But there was a complication. Another faction, one that sought to control the artifact for their own gain, was already aware of its power. They would stop at nothing to seize it before Jake and Alara could reach it. We need to move quickly. Alara's voice was filled with urgency. The others are already on their way. If we do not act fast, the artifact will be lost forever. Jake nodded, his heart pounding in his chest. He had never imagined that his simple investigation would lead him into a battle for the fate of two worlds. But there was no turning back now. He had made a promise to Alara, and he was going to keep it no matter the cost. The two of them made their way into the depths of the alien fortress, their footsteps echoing through the cold stone hallways. The walls were adorned with strange symbols and glowing crystals that seemed to pulse with energy. The air was thick with anticipation, and the sense of danger was palpable. They were running out of time, and every second counted. As they descended deeper into the heart of the fortress, the tension in the air grew heavier. The deeper they went, the more the walls seemed to close in on them. The ground beneath their feet trembled as if the planet itself was holding its breath. It was a race against time, and Jake knew that the fate of the galaxy rested on his shoulders. They reached a large chamber-like area, and in the center stood a massive glowing pedestal. Upon it rested the artifact, a pulsating, crystal-like object that seemed to hum with energy. Jake could feel the power radiating from it, and for a moment he wondered how something so small could hold the fate of the universe within its core. We have to be careful, Alara whispered, her eyes scanning the room. The others are close. We cannot let them take it. But before they could move forward, a sudden crash echoed through the chamber. Jake spun around, his hand instinctively reaching for the weapon at his side. A group of alien soldiers stormed into the room, led by a tall figure in dark armor. It was their enemy, the faction that sought to claim the artifact for themselves. They had found them. Step aside, the leader of the faction growled, his voice cold and commanding. The artifact belongs to us. Jake's heart raced as he raised his weapon, but Alara stepped in front of him, holding her hand up in a gesture of defiance. No, she said firmly, her voice filled with authority. The artifact does not belong to you. It belongs to the galaxy. We will use it to restore balance, to save us all. The leader's eyes narrowed, and a cruel smile spread across his face. You do not understand. We are the future. The artifact will bring us power beyond your comprehension. You cannot stop us. Jake's grip tightened on the weapon, his muscles tensing as he prepared for the inevitable confrontation. But just as the tension reached its peak, Alara's voice rang out, commanding the attention of the soldiers. No, she said again, her voice steady and unwavering. This ends now. In an instant, the air in the room seemed to shift. Alara raised her hands, and the walls around them seemed to pulse with energy. The soldiers faltered, their weapons lowering as if they were caught in a trance. Alara's Power had activated the artifact and its energy surged through the chamber. The very air crackled with an almost tangible force. "Now, Jake!" Alera's voice was urgent. "Take it!" Jake didn't hesitate. With a swift motion, he lunged forward, grabbing the artifact from its pedestal. The moment his fingers touched the crystal, a surge of energy coursed through him, flooding his senses. The power of the ether seemed to flow through him, awakening something deep within. He could feel the galaxy itself, the stars, the planets, all connected by a single thread of energy. It was overwhelming, yet invigorating. For the first time, he understood the true weight of what he was holding. The soldiers, their minds still clouded by Alera's power, turned and fled the room, unable to face the force that now radiated from the artifact. The battle was over before it had truly begun. As the last of the enemy soldiers retreated, Jake looked to Alera. Her expression was one of triumph, but also of relief. The energy that had once threatened to tear their worlds apart now seemed to calm, as if the ether was being restored to its natural state. "We did it," Alera said, her voice filled with emotion. Jake nodded, still holding the artifact in his hands. The power it contained was incredible, and he knew that this was just the beginning. But the battle for the ether was far from over. The forces that had once tried to control it would return, and there would be more challenges ahead. Now Jake had a moment of peace, a moment to reflect on the journey that had brought him here. "We've saved your world," Jake said quietly, his voice filled with a sense of accomplishment. "Now we have to make sure we protect it." Alera smiled, her gaze softening as she looked at him. "And we will together. This is only the beginning. The galaxy is ours to save." As the two of them stood there, surrounded by the energy of the artifact, Jake realized that his journey had changed him in ways he could never have imagined. He had come to this alien world as an investigator, but now he was something more. He was a protector, a defender of not just one world, but the entire galaxy. And with Alera by his side, he knew that together, they could face whatever challenges lay ahead.